All right, so in the previous exercise, we managed to hunt down and rename the most obvious material in the scene, which is the bedside table. In this exercise, we are going to hunt down and rename the remaining 16 materials. Now, it's all a matter of due diligence. We're just trying to navigate our way around, figure out what's going on. You could skip this step if you want to. I don't recommend that you do that because you're going to be a lot better set to navigate through the scene and make it look beautiful if you know what's going on in the first place. I've saved my progress as the single mesh scene.psd. It's found inside the 15 lighting folder. And I'm going to click on this next item down here, this material that's called bed 05 Blinn 1SG. I have no idea what in the world that means, so I'll click on it to make it active. And I do have my 3D selections turned on. You can do so by clicking on that little icon down there at the bottom of the panel. You can also do so by going up to the view menu, choosing show, and then choosing 3D selection. Either way, the check mark should be in front of the command so you can see what's going on. This is obviously the bed frame right here. And it also includes the frame underneath the bed. So I'm going to go ahead and name this bed frame like so. Now I'll click on the next item down. That appears to be the bedspread. So I'll go ahead and rename it bedspread. Now some of these items are easy to identify, others not so much. The next guy is a little tough. It's like, what in the world have I selected this time? I don't see white edges around anything. So I'll reduce the opacity to 0% and keep a careful eye on the scene because theoretically I'm seeing a representative of just about everything in the scene here from this view. And as soon as I reduce the opacity, the pillows go away. Well, now what I do is I'd sort of hunt further. I'd zoom into the scene, see what else is going on, maybe change the bedspread to an opacity value of 0% so that I could see if it's not just the pillows, it's something else. I'll just tell you what's happening here. It turns out it's both the pillows and the mattress. So I'm going to press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo the reduction in the opacity value. We want most of these objects to remain fully opaque. And now I'll go ahead and rename this material mattress and pillows. All right, there we go. Now let's drop down to Blinn 1SG. And that is the baseboards this time around. You can change the opacity if you want, but I know for a fact these are the baseboards. Then click on the next one, and it's like, what? I have no idea what Blinn 2SG is. If I reduce the opacity to 0% here, then I don't see anything reduced in opacity. All right, you know what? I'm going to press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to reestablish the opacity value of 100%, and we'll come back to that guy. Let's click on the next item down, Blinn 3SG, and I can see these little selections, these white selection edges, around each of the cans at the top of the scene, above the ceiling. And so I'm going to rename this guy Can Housings, like so. And you know what I bet? We'll come back to it in a second. I'm going to click on the next one, Lambert 2SG, and that's the entire ceiling. All right, so I'm going to rename it entire ceiling because it's not just the ceiling, it also includes the crown molding along the interior of the ceiling. Again, I just know that from sort of flitting around inside this image. All right, let's reduce the opacity of the ceiling to 0% for a moment so we can see through it. And I'm also going to reduce the opacity of the can housings. And now I'll click on Blend 2SG again, and it's these little guys right there, the little lights. And if I reduce the opacity value to 0%, sure enough, they go away. All right, so that's them. Press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to reset the opacity value back to 100%. And I'll call this guy, just for the sake of variety, I'll call it ceiling lights instead of can lights. That way I can just look at this very easily and note that can housings are the exterior metal items, ceiling lights are the items I need to light because I need to keep track of where these objects are so that I can project light out of them. Anyway, I'm going to switch back to can housings, restore its opacity value back to 100%, click on entire ceiling, take its opacity value back to 100%, click on Lambert 3SG, and I think what this is the walls. I'm going to change the opacity value to 0%. Sure enough, that's both walls, so I'll press Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac, double-click on this item and call it both walls. And then let's go ahead and scroll down. We just have a few more items, believe it or not. There's Lambert 4SG. What is that? I can't tell for the life of me, so I'll go ahead and reduce the opacity value to 0%, and the floor goes away. So, must be the floor. Press Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac to undo. Then change the name of this item to floor. And now we have a handful of lamp items right here. And to properly identify those, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on my scene some more. And by zoom in, I mean with the camera. So I've still got my 3D camera tool selected here. I've got my widget up so I can drag on the blue arrowhead to zoom in on the scene, and then I can drag on the red arrowhead in order to scoot over a little bit. And I'm going to zoom in even further because I really want to be able to keep a close eye on that lamp right there. So I'm just dragging on the blue and red arrowheads, by the way. All right, now let's click on Lamp 03 Blinn 1SG, and that is the lamp stand. All right, so I'll go ahead and call it that. And the next item here is what? Dunno. Can't see it when it's selected. So we'll drop down to the next item, and it's the lamp shade. So I'll go ahead and name it that. And then I'll take that lampshade and I'll reduce its opacity value to 0% so I can see there's a light bulb inside of the lampshade. So I'm going to click on this guy to check if it is the light bulb. I'm not seeing any kind of highlight around the light bulb. So let's change the opacity value to 0% and see what happens. And the light bulb disappears. So it must be the light bulb. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this guy light bulb like so. And you know what? This time around, I'm not going to take the opacity value up to 100%. I'm just going to take it up to 20% because we're going to want to put a light inside of that light bulb, and I don't want it to get completely obscured by the bulb shape. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on lampshade again, and let's take its opacity value up to 75%. We want it to have a little bit of translucency. All right, the only remaining items are the windows. So let's go ahead and scroll over a little bit here inside of our 3D scene by dragging. So I drag to the right on the red arrowhead. I'm also going to drag up on the green arrowhead, and that's this first window right there. So I'm going to call it window frame 1. And then the next item down is actually the pane inside of the window. If I were to reduce its opacity to 0%, you can see that the window goes white instead of gray. So I'm going to rename this item pane 1, and then I'm also going to change its opacity value to 25% because we do want some translucency associated with the window. 25% will serve us just fine for now. The next guys, I'll just ruin the surprise here. We don't have to go hunting for them. They're window frame 2 and pane 2. So let's just go ahead and rename them as such. So frame 2. And then for this final item here, I'll go ahead and call it pane 2, and I'll change its opacity value from 100% down to 25%. And we have now managed to identify and name every single one of the 17 materials in the scene, which will make it a heck of a lot easier to navigate and modify these materials in future exercises.